It's so nasty.
It's cool. People probably think
Hello, everybody. Welcome to YSS Let's Talk. We're here tonight to talk about May because it's foster care month. My name is Terri Bailey. I am an AMP support person who works with teenagers, and I was a foster parent for 30 years, but now retired. And we have two youth tonight that are going to share with you the experiences of being in foster care and what it's like to move into a new foster family. So if you're a foster family or we're thinking about becoming one, these guys will give you some tips on how to make youth feel comfortable and welcome. So being a foster parent is a super hard job. I know that, but I can tell you it's also very rewarding. And a lot of times the general public doesn't know a lot about foster care. They just see foster care maybe as a show on TV like Criminal Minds, which is not really how it is. And but it's not like the movies either. So we want to give you a real look at foster care and tell you a little bit about what it is. So foster parents, they usually take 30 hours of training. They're trained as professional parents, and this training teaches them about the child welfare system, and it also teaches them how to care for children who have experienced trauma and come into foster care. During this 10 sessions of 3 hours a session, 30 hours total, foster parents will go through a home study where social workers from DHS and agencies will come and do a home study on their home and check out what kind of space they have in order to take care of children. So the primary goal is always reuniting children with their biological families. But if that isn't possible, foster parents may have the option to adopt the children once their parental rights are terminated. So when you become a foster parent, you can let your workers know what age of youth that you are interested in parenting. Sometimes it's according to what children that you have in your own home, or maybe it's just an age that you feel most comfortable with. So at any time in Iowa, there are approximately 4,000 youth in foster care. And right now, there's a shortage of foster families. So if you're thinking about being a foster parent, at the end of this session, we'll tell you how to check out how to be a foster parent and get some more information about it. Okay, so I'd like our youth to introduce themselves. We'll start with T. T, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How old you were when you came into foster care?
I am T. I'm currently 23 years old. I went into foster care when I was 13 and aged out.
Okay. How about you, Amaris?
Hello, my name is Amaris. I am currently 20 years old, and I went into the foster care system when I was 18 months old.
Okay. T, what would you, being a youth that went into foster care, what would you look like, or what would you look for in a foster home?
I didn't get to pick my foster families or get much say. But I think that if I had a choice, I probably would have looked for someone like myself. Being a youth of color, most foster parents are white, and so they don't necessarily understand the things that I need. Being a Black woman, so I think personally I would have liked to have found a foster home that really understood my culture.
Okay. How about you, Amaris? What would you look for in a foster home?
I think people who actually care about kids, not people that are there to tell their friends and family that they're doing something good, but people who actually care about what they're doing and actually want to make a difference in kids' lives.
Okay. A lot of times when youth come into care, they try to place youth close to the town they already live in, close to their home school, families and friends, so there can be visits. Would any of this have helped you when you were placed in foster care? Go ahead, T.
Definitely. My last placement was an hour away from home. So I didn't get to see anyone a lot unless they came to me, or the staff could take me home. And I think that it would have been beneficial for me to be closer to home towards the end of my aging out.
Okay, how about you, Amaris?
I would definitely agree. Yes. It's going to make transitions so much easier, not having to change schools, not having to make new friends. It's going to make everybody's life so much easier in the long run.
All right, T. What do you think? Would you like two parents, a single parent, same-sex couple? Did it really matter to you?
It definitely didn't matter. I had two single foster parents, and then I had two foster homes that had both parents. Um, and I mean, I think that as long as you are willing to be that parental role and actually care for me and love me as your own, it doesn't matter whether it's one, two, a same-sex couple. Um, I it I think that the foster care system needs more same-sex couple foster parents, um, but it definitely didn't matter.
How about to you, Amaris?
I don't think it matters at all as long as um, the foster parents are somebody that's going to, like T said, love and support kids as if they were their own and do whatever they can to help them succeed.
All right. Did it matter that there were other kids? Would you have rather been the only child? Would you have liked to take some siblings with you?
All of my siblings are way older than me. And so even when I was at home, I didn't really get to grow up with them in the same home. But being an only child is lonely. um, and even when I had foster siblings that were younger than me, I liked it. And then I had foster siblings that were the same age as me and a little bit older. And it was nice because you have someone to bond with. Um, I got much closer to my foster siblings than I did my foster parents. Um, and so they were an additional support for me in the system. And so for me, I would much rather have a home with siblings.
All right. You, Amaris, I think you have siblings in your family, don't you?
Yeah. I have 11 siblings, and one of them is biological. And so he came with me wherever I went. Um, and so that was really nice because when we were younger, we had a really strong connection, and I was very protective over him. Um, and so I think it's always beneficial for siblings to go together because you don't know what they've been through. You know, they could have been the parent role. So if you separate them, it's just going to cause more stress, and you never know what behaviors that could lead to. Um, I think siblings or like foster siblings is always great too, because like T said, it's somebody else that you can bond with and connect with, and another support system that you can have that actually understands what you're going through.
How about either one of you? Were pets important?
We, in the foster home that I was in the longest, we had pets that tried, like my foster mom had tried to keep them, and it didn't work out well, but it was definitely nice while it lasted. Like having two puppies in the house was great because I'm also getting my energy out while also tiring out puppies.
I know you have some crazy animals at your house, Amaris.
Yeah. For me, it's always easier to bond with an animal because I don't trust people at all. And I do get attached to things. Like once I trust something, I get attached to it super easily. And that's how it's always been with me for animals. Their support systems. My bunny is my emotional support bunny. And yeah, so that was something that was important to me.
Amaris has a chicken and goats.
We did have chickens. We don't have chickens anymore.
Okay. What about sports? Was it important to either of you to play sports, be in drama, cheerlead, anything like that, a school activity?
Extracurriculars definitely made me feel normal. It made me feel like a normal kid and like I fit in at school. Um, the only thing that I can think of is like when you want kids to be in sports or when they want to be in sports and extracurriculars, foster parents should let them do that. While it can be a privilege, I definitely don't think that it should be held over their heads. I got pulled out of my track season in the middle, and I was like this close to going to state. And so it's important. It's normalcy. And normalcy is super important when you're a child in foster care.
How about you, Amaris? What were you involved in?
Theater, show choir, a lot of that kind of stuff. So that's just how I've always been able to express myself. That's where I've felt most safe is on the stage and performing. I tell everybody the stage is my home because that's, you don't have to fit in to be able to make a difference. You don't have to fit in to fit a role. You can be whoever you want. You can be yourself. And that was always my favorite thing.
How important to you as you were teenagers, how important was it for you to be able to get a job?
Super important. It gave me a sense of responsibility, and I was making my own money, so I could spend my money on things that I wanted, or things that my foster parents may have not felt that I needed, but I wanted, and I earned the money. So, but also it's another escape from the home. Another thing that makes you feel like a normal kid.
Yep, it feels good to earn your own money. How about you, Amaris?
For me, I was lucky enough to be adopted. And I had parents that I could go to and say, hey, I want this because they took the time and they actually cared enough to adopt me no matter what I put them through. They still cared. They still treated me as if I was their own kid. And so if I wanted to, they would have supported me getting a job. But because they allowed me to do all these other things, they supported me when I didn't have a job. So,
okay. Now, I remember as a foster parent, one of my favorite things was working with the biological family. I thought it was really important that that the family got to know us, that we got to know the family, and we kind of shared the parenting with the youth. I thought it made it so much easier on the youth when they went back and forth to visits. So, how important was it for you guys that your foster parents got along with your biological family?
I think things would have went easier if my foster family did get along with my biological family. Um, but it was kind of like they were both too protective and not seeing eye to eye. Um, but for like my mental health and my sanity, it would have been much better if they would have been able to get along.
Okay, how about you, Amaris?
my parents tried to get along with my biological parents. Sometimes I'm sure it was talking to a brick wall. They didn't want to communicate. They saw it their way and nobody else's. I think it would have been a lot easier on everybody if communication would have went better, but can't change that now. So,
Yep. How important was it that your foster parents accept your culture, your foods that you might like, some of maybe the memories and the ways you used to celebrate holidays, things like that? Did your foster parents ever like reach out to you and say, hey, let's make your mom's spaghetti tonight or something like that?
It definitely didn't happen like that. Um, but I think that would have been nice. I remember when I first went into foster care, the first foster mom that I had would make things, and I'd be like, "Oh, well, my mom makes it this way," and she would just kind of look at me like, well, I'm not your mom, so I don't do it that way. But I think it would have comforted me to have some of the same food. So.
Yep, I know me. I'm connected to food. So that would have been comforting for me. How about you, Amaris?
I think it's one of the most important things, especially if you have a foster youth who comes from a different background than you do. I know with my parents, they got in touch with my DHS worker ahead of time to find out foods that I liked. Ended up being the complete wrong foods, and
Oh,
I wouldn't eat. And so they finally figured it out. It was nasty foods, nasty combinations that I would never eat today. But they went to the store right when they figured it out, bought all the stuff they needed. And so that was really comforting.
yep. I remember I had youth that said, the first time I ate supper at your house, this is what we ate. And I always remember that. So foods are super, super important. I know you talk to a lot of youth within AMP, and AMP is the Iowa Foster Care Youth Council, and I'll plug it from here to there because that's kind of like my program, and these guys are some of my all-stars. But how important is it for a foster parent to be aware of or help parent somebody who identifies as LGBT? How about T?
I think it's super important to accept everybody, no matter what their sexuality, their skin color. And I know that like in the foster care system, LGBTQ youth have a hard time finding people to accept them for who they are. And I think it's super important that they do have a support.
Support within the family or support from someone in their lives?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. How about you, Amaris?
I agree. I think it's really important, especially because that could be part of the reason why they were pulled from their biological family. I know kids who have been pulled from their biological family because they came out as LGBTQ plus, and they needed somebody who was actually going to walk with them on their journey and support them.
So it's really important for foster parents to meet their youth wherever they might be.
Yes.
I totally agree. T, can you talk a little bit about if you get a child of color, how to maybe take care of their hair and skin?
To be very honest, the best thing to do is ask the biological family. Um, I I'm still growing my hair out from all of the things that happened to me in foster care, and I'm 23 years old, and I at this point this is the longest my hair has been um, in my whole life. So like getting the correct hair products, they might be more expensive because I need different things. I know Caucasian people don't need grease or oil in their hair, but I do. Or I need shampoos that'll maintain my moisture and maintain my breakage, or maintain my shrinkage. And so, like in a foster home, I never got like my own things. I always got stuck with what everybody else had in the home. And I was almost always the only girl of color in the home. And so my hair would fall out. I have pictures where we didn't cut my hair. Like I've cut my hair a couple times in my life, but like the sides of my head were completely short and the top of my head was long because I wasn't using the right products and nobody was taking care of my hair. Um, I even had an instance where my family, my cousin would come braid my hair or I would go to her. And my foster parent didn't understand that a process of braiding your hair could take 8 hours. And so she was like, that was too long. It shouldn't have took that long. And then I wasn't allowed to get my hair braided by my cousin anymore. So I didn't have anyone to braid my hair. And I just walked around town, a hot mess with hair everywhere, I mean, Terry, you've known me since I was 13. You can attest to that. Like,
I remember when your hair used to break off.
yes. When we could comb through my hair, I could rake my fingers through my hair and it would just break off because I didn't have the things that I need. It's important that foster parents are taught how to take care of ethnic kids' hair, their skin. I still have skin issues, not using the correct lotion. Just there's so many things, and you just have to do your research and be willing to listen. Most kids are going to know what they need. Or they're going to be like, well, I could just call my mom or I could call my sister and they'll know. So just being open and being attentive to that is super important.
And it can be pretty expensive to go get your hair braided, can't it?
Yes. Well, so because my cousin was doing it, we just had to buy hair. And sometimes she'd be like, well, I'll got the hair. So it's fine. But it can be expensive, like $100 to $180, depending on style, depending on the person. I've definitely just started to learn how to braid my own hair, so I don't have to pay for it anymore. I don't have to go to anyone else. And so it can be.
So that'd be a good thing for foster parents to reach out.
Yes.
And either have someone teach them or figure out where to get a deal, huh?
Right.
Amaris, how about, I know you've got really pale skin. What about like sunscreen and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's obviously important. It's completely different than, what T's been through. A lot of parents are always overprotective of, their children and what they're wearing and what they're, how long they're outside. And so, although it is important for, to make sure your kid's wearing sunscreen, I think it's kind of just like common knowledge. Of course, you're going to put sunscreen on any kid who goes outside. But like T was saying, we definitely need more education for kids like ethnic kids who are going into white homes.
I remember as a foster parent that sometimes my youth would be on certain medications, and it would say that it made them very susceptible to sunburn. So that's another thing to watch out for as well. T, how important was it for you to know how your foster parents disciplined their children?
Discipline.
That's a whole box of worms.
I think it would have been nice, like, to have that understanding from the beginning and not wait till there's conflict. Like, lay down the laws first. Let me know how you discipline or how you do things. So, like, I came from an abusive home, so I was very much used to just getting in trouble and getting a butt whooping and then letting it go. And I remember my foster mom wanted to talk it through and figure it out, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't know.
Get it over with.
But discipline is super important, and it's needed. But you have to be aware of traumas. You have to be aware of how that can make your youth feel. Like, yeah, they're teenagers and nobody wants to be disciplined, but are you triggering them in the process?
Yeah. How about you, Amaris?
I think it is important just to, like, this is our rules. This is what happens if you don't follow them. Just so it's 100% clear. So your kid can't come back to you and be like, well, you never told me that. So you can't punish me for something that you didn't tell me, because we'll do that.
Yeah, I've heard that. What about some of the behaviors you used to struggle with, Dee?
Oh.
I'll put you on the spot here.
Where to start?
I think it's important foster parents know what to look for.
I was a kid, so I went to school at a high school that gave us free periods. And of course, my foster mom was like, no, you can't leave the school. But I'd leave the school anyway. It's my free period. I'm not about to sit in the lunchroom with the underclassmen. Like, I'm a junior. I want to go to my friend's house and eat lunch. Like, so I very much got in trouble for things that I did in school. not as much as I did at home. So like I just acted out at school because I had friends that were on the wild side. And then I also struggled with sneaking out at one point. And we're most of us in foster care really know how to manipulate. So we'll lie till our face turns blue, just sometimes because we don't want to believe we did it.
Do you think too that you had to lie sometimes to keep yourself safe?
Definitely. There was times where I would do things that I wasn't supposed to, and things would happen that weren't, like things that you should be able to tell your parent, but you're like, wow, I did something I wasn't supposed to, so now I don't want to come to you about this safety concern that I have, or
Right.
tell you about something that happened to me. And so definitely like just lie about it. Like, well, where did that come from? I don't know. Like it disappeared because I was doing something I wasn't supposed to. So
yeah. What kind of things did you struggle with, Amaris?
I struggled with a lot. I had a lot of bad behaviors. Temper tantrums, throwing things, tipping bunk beds over, cussing people out. And yes, I was like 2 years old. Happens that young.
You had colorful language.
I had very colorful language. The first thing that came out of my mouth that my parents heard was colorful language. Yeah, that's a good range of everything.
If you could say something, pretend your foster parents are watching. If you could say something to them about how much they meant to you now that you're older and we have moved on into young adulthood, what are some of the things you could thank them for?
Okay, I'm going to try not to cry because I'm a very sentimental, emotional person. I definitely didn't always have the best relationship with my foster parents, but all of them have taught me something that I'm thankful for. I vacuum my kitchen, which is weird, but my foster mom was like, "Well, a broom just pushes around the dirt." And so now I vacuum my kitchen, I vacuum my hardwood floors, and like that's just a cleaning technique that she taught me and she taught me how to cook things. She tried to help me open my first bank account, and I was like, "No, I don't want you to have access to my money." But she tried. So there's just a lot of things. Like even now, if I need a recipe or if I'm sick, I know that like I can call her and be like, "I'm sick. I don't feel good. I don't know what to do." um, and even till today, I'm 23. I left her house when I was 17, and she answers all of my calls. She calls me, checks in on me, um, continuing to be a support after a youth leaves your home. If that's something they want, I think is super important. Um, if you can stomach that, sometimes people kick youth out of their home and don't have a good relationship with them anymore, but you might have been the best person that they ever had in their life. Be forgiving, I guess.
That's awesome. How about you, Amaris?
It's really hard.
What do you want to say to your mom?
I'm going to try not to cry. It's not going to work. My mom has always supported me, no matter anything that I did, all the tantrums, all, the craziness, the madness that I caused in her house. She stuck by my side. She pushed me to do my best in everything. No matter what it was, she always wanted me to be the best version of myself that I possibly could. And, she still does that today. I text her every day, talk to her every chance that I get. She'll still come up and see me. She's like, "Hey, do you have groceries in your fridge?" All the all the things that it's just like, it's not her responsibility anymore, but she still cares enough to just make sure that I'm doing okay. And, I know that anything that I need or like any questions that I have, I can always go to her.
I remember as a foster parent and working with AMP youth, they used to say, I need a parent who can be there through thick and thin, that I can make mistakes and they can say, that's okay. People make mistakes. Did you learn something from that? And so they want to know that you have their back. And like you said, that they're there when you need them, because youth do reach out. You realize as a parent that when you're trying to parent, a lot of times it's their youth is not ready to receive your parenting. But you have to understand that whatever you said is still a seed that's planted somewhere in their brain. And so at some point in time in their life, they're going to say, oh, yeah, I remember them teaching me that. And they may need to call and get a refresh, but to know that as a foster parent, you help plant those seeds, and that someday, even though it may be years later, they'll bloom. And so it's definitely worth the time. So I think as a foster parent, I think that there's a lot of behaviors that teens in foster care do that are just normal teen behaviors. It's not because they're in foster care. It's not because they've experienced trauma. Sometimes teens are just teens. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think that helped me parent teenagers. And I would say you could probably use this really for any age of child. But it's some of the things I think that helped me be successful as a mom. So one of the things is I always let my youth talk first. Whatever they have to say, they get first dibs on what to say. What do you guys think about that? How about you, T?
I think that that's a really good approach. Listen to what the youth has to say. Listen without interrupting, because I know that when I'm trying to talk and people interrupt me, or I'm already worked up and you're interrupting me while I'm trying to say something, I'm just gonna get mad. I'm gonna get mad, and we're not having a conversation anymore because I'm over it.
Yeah.
So I can definitely just listen to the youth, let them say what they have to, and then take it from there.
Does that work for you, Amaris?
Yeah, because I'm the same way. If you interrupt me, I'm done talking. You're not going to get anything out of me. So, like T said, just listen, but take it into consideration. See if there's something that you can change or do that improves things a little bit better.
How important is it for your parents to be open-minded?
Very. Kids go through phases. Teenagers go through phases. I mean, I know y'all see all this metal in my face. I've always wanted tattoos. I've always wanted piercings. I pierced a couple things that I wasn't supposed to, and while I was still in foster care, be open-minded about it. But like I still don't have a set style. But youth change. They're their own person. They're unique. They're gonna want to dress like their best friend or their favorite idol. Some youth aren't sure about their sexuality. Be open-minded. There's many things. Maybe they're struggling with something medical that like a mom would be like, what did you do? And you're like, well, I don't know, but please be open-minded while we talk about this. I can think of lots of things that like my foster mom wasn't necessarily used to, but like we eventually got through it because she was okay at being open-minded.
How about you, Amaris?
I think it's very important, and I think that's because my mom has always let me express myself however I want to, and that stems from the restrictions she had as a kid, but this is not my hair color. I've dyed my hair. I have not seen its normal color since I want to say 12, 13 maybe. My mom always let me cut my own hair if I wanted to. She let me dye it, experiment with makeup and piercings and, whatever I wanted to do, she let me do it because that's how I wanted to express myself. And if I didn't like it, it's my own fault.
Yep, good call. That's my next thing, to be positive, supporting, and understanding. I think one of the things that I always tried to do, since I worked with youth, I tried to watch the TV shows they like to watch. I listened to their favorite channels on the radio. I just about a month ago, I sat down and watched anime, which I never have liked anime, but anime explained a lot to me about my granddaughter and why she likes it. And so it was a real eye-opening. But what do you guys think about having some adults be positive and supportive and understanding?
I think that's one of the most important things. Like, obviously communication is key, but being supportive and being positive and understanding is up there. Like, I don't want to walk into a house where the vibes are just negative, because then I'm going to be negative. But or maybe I'm already in a negative mood. Sometimes I just need someone to be positive or point out the good things. Well, you may not have that new pair of shoes, but you got shoes. You could be barefoot.
Worse.
Exactly. So, and understanding is super important because, as a teenager, I didn't even know what was going through my head or why I was doing the things I was doing. But I had positive understanding supports. Cough, cough, Terry. Helped. So.
How about you, Amaris?
I think it's really important because, like T said, I don't even understand what's going on in my head. I'm 20 and I still don't get it. I've been to therapy. I still don't get it. Nothing is going to help me understand what's going on because nobody's ever going to know. So having somebody that can just sit and listen, that's something that my mom's always done. No matter if it's 11 o'clock and I've talked to her for 2 hours, she sits and listens the entire time. But also for me at least, if you're not supportive and you're going to tell me like what you think, I'm going to tell you what I think. And it probably won't be very nice. Like, that's how I've always been. And if you tell me, well, I don't think you should dye your hair green, and I don't think it'd be a good idea, and I think it's going to look bad, I'm going to do it, even if it looks bad, because you're telling me you don't want me to do that. If you support me and you're like, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it, but this is what I think, I'm more likely to not do it. And I think that's how it is with most teenagers, most youth in foster care, most youth in the world. I mean, we're not different from anybody else. We're just in a different circumstance.
Amaris brings up a good point. If you have anybody that is getting close to teen years, usually when they want to talk is when you're about ready to go to bed. So, yeah, they're late night talkers and deep thinkers. So be prepared for that because those conversations are super important. And I would say when you're talking about building a relationship with youth, that's probably one of the key things in a relationship. I know that when I was a mom and a foster mom, that relationships with my youth were super important to me. And a lot of times I would explain things and start with, you realize we have a relationship, right? And that was usually a key to, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to talk about options you could choose. Because like Amaris said, the minute you say don't do it, they're probably going to do it. So how important is that adult-youth relationship to you, T?
Super important. If we don't have a relationship, why am I in your home? Why? If we don't have a relationship at that point, me being a foster kid, I think that you're just doing it for the money, and that you don't really care. Someone who cares is going to try to build that relationship, no matter how hard I push them away. Um, I have a reactive attachment disorder that wasn't treated the right way as a kid. And so I am very prone to pushing people away. I will push your buttons and try to hurt you before you hurt me. But I, I, I've had a relationship with someone, and so they could recognize those signs. Or if your foster parent actually is going to therapy sessions with you or talking to your therapist, they're gonna know, like, oh, this kid has these things. Maybe I should be more open minded and build a relationship. Relationships are everything to me. I'm very much a relationship person. Um, they're just the basis of everything to me. Um, Super important.
So, Amaris, I know one of the things we talk a lot about in AMP is to be honest and straightforward. How important is it for you to have your adult relationships be honest and straightforward?
It is the most important thing to me. If you're not honest with me, I can tell. A lot of us, we can see straight through it, so there's no point in lying. Um, Also, if you're not honest with me, I'm not going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you things that you want to hear that may not be true. And you probably won't be able to tell. You won't be able to tell if I'm being honest or not. And so it's just better to be transparent and be 100% so you get that back. It's just a respect thing.
I know as a parent, it was always important for me to follow through with what I said. So often the youth in my home would say, I'd say, well, we're going to go on a picnic today. And they'd say, do you promise? And I'd say, no, I can't promise because what if it would rain? That might change our plans and we'd do something else that was fun. Because I think it's important to all youth. If you say that you're going to promise, you've got to be able to follow through. Is there been ever a time in your life, T, when somebody's promised you something and hasn't followed through?
I think at some point someone promised me a happy childhood, and I did not have that.
Wow, that was huge.
Sorry, bad sense of humor.
That's okay.
But yes, I mean, I've had people promise they're gonna come see me, or even if we look at my biological mother and her promising to do these things and she didn't do them. So now I'm skeptical of everybody who's like, I promise. Do you? So me personally now, promises don't necessarily mean anything because people break those. If you pinky promise me though, follow through. It's a pinky promise. They're sacred.
Yeah. Definitely. How about you, Amaris? What about promises?
I hate promises. I've definitely had broken promises so many times. They don't mean anything to me anymore. I tell people not to promise me anything. You can ask just about anybody, don't promise me anything. I'll probably not talk to you ever again. No, but like seriously, if you promise me something, I'm not going to believe you. It's going to hurt our relationship a lot because um, nobody can always follow through. You never know what's going to happen. You know, even if you're the most reliable person in the world, what if you get hit by a bus? Can't keep that promise. You know, if the world ends tomorrow, you can't keep that promise. So I hate it. I don't allow them into my life. It just brings up trauma and negativity, and I don't need that. I have enough.
Yeah. One of the things I know, especially for foster care, how important it is to make decisions as a team. What is it like for you as a youth to be a part of that decision-making team?
Youth are the experts in their own lives. So most of the time, adults think that they know what's best for us, but you're not asking my opinion. When you sent me to this foster home, you didn't ask if I was going to feel comfortable there. Um, when you decided my age out plan and I didn't decide it myself, it entailed things that I knew weren't going to happen, but I wasn't going to tell you that. It's just going to let you do what you're going to do. But having youth at the table, being a part of those decisions is super important because they are the experts. I'm going to be able to tell you much better what I need to succeed in school or to succeed in life than you can tell me what I need. It's super important to listen to youth and ask them what they want before making decisions for them.
How about you, Amaris? Were you part of a team?
I agree with that. I think I was a little too young. But I mean, if they would have asked me, there was decisions that were going to be made about me that I knew were not right. And I know what those decisions are now. I obviously didn't know, way back when it was happening. But if they would have, you can ask a child, what they think, what they want. You can ask a youth because they're going to give you better answers. Like T said, we know what's going on the best. We know what we want, what we need. And if you want us to succeed, if you want us to, reach our best selves, like my mom pushed me, listen to what we have to say.
Definitely. I know when youth came in to my foster home, it was really important that they felt safe. So, how could a foster parent make it so that a foster youth would feel safe? T.
Before I answer that question, Terry, can I read what Rusty put in the comments?
Yes.
Rusty said being asked to be a part of a team helps us feel the power. And sometimes for the first time that our voices matter and that we have power to actually make change and people actually listen. That's important. AMP does that for foster youth. So I'm going to plug AMP one more time.
That's okay. I won't stop you.
Okay. And then, Terry, can you repeat your question because I forgot?
How can a foster parent help a youth feel safe?
Creating those spaces where youth feel heard and understood makes them feel safe. Maybe they have a favorite blanket that they didn't get to bring with them. Asking the worker, hey, my foster child has been talking to me about this blanket that they don't feel safe without. Is there any way we can get that? Asking them what makes them feel safe. And that goes back to giving them, listening to them and giving them power to make decisions for themselves. Like for me, I would have nightmares. So one of my foster sisters would lay in my bed with me until I fell asleep. And that's just how it happened. Like just the kind of the bond we created. And my foster mom thought it was weird. Well, I don't like that. Maybe you guys should sleep in separate rooms. But then I felt unsafe because the person that I bonded with is now been removed from my space. So asking them how they feel safe and what makes them feel safe or what you can do differently so that they're comfortable in your home is very beneficial.
How about you, Amaris?
There's a lot of ways from, the comfort item that, you always have with you to like, I'm sure my mom knew I did it, but after everybody went to sleep, I went and checked and made sure all the doors were locked because that's how I knew I was safe. When I was younger, it's weird that I did this, but I would sleep on a mattress next to her bed and hold her hand the entire night, and that's the only way I could sleep. That's the only way I felt safe. That's the only way she could get me to sleep through the night, and she did it for more than 2 years.
Wow. I know, as a parent, I used to explain all the time. I always thought it was important for my youth to understand the why. So when they'd say, I want to go to the mall with my friends, and I'd say, you know what? That doesn't feel safe to me. And it's my job to keep you safe. How about I go to the mall with you and we all shop together? That kind of thing. I think it's important for youth to understand that their parents just want to make sure they're safe. It's a crazy world out there, and we have to make sure that you're safe because you're our kids, right? Okay. So there's a lot of ways as a community that we can help a foster family. I know foster families are extremely busy. They have kids that go to visits and appointments and school activities and all kinds of things. And something that you could do maybe for a foster family is, make them a meal one night when you know that it's a busy night. If you know they're a foster family, placements can come any time of the day or night. Maybe you have a car seat that you don't use anymore, or maybe some clothes that you could share with them. Or maybe just even be a friend that you can, they can talk to and, relieve some of that stress at times. I think one of the things that we can do, especially for families who have teenagers, is refer them to AMP. AMP is a program for youth from 13 to 23. And the great thing about it is, as a foster family, you don't have to worry about helping them make friends, helping them get resources for when they are going on into their teen years. Can you talk a little bit about how AMP helped you as a teenager?
Oh, this might be where I cry. Gosh darn it, Terri.
I'm all about the feels.
I know. Amaris, can you go first? Look, I'm already crying. They've already
Well, I will say at first I didn't want to be a part of AMP. My mom forced me to. She put me in a car and told me, no, she didn't. Well, kind of. A month leading up, I was super excited. And then a week before, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go. It's going to be fine. And she's like, no, you're going. And I went in the first 3-4 days. I called her to try and make her pick me up from camp because it was so terrible. And they were going to hang me by my toes from the ceiling or whatever. Anyway, the fourth night, I ended up finally just giving up, stop being stubborn, and let myself feel what I needed to feel for the first time in 15 years. I'd closed myself off and I had told myself, nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody will ever get it. I'm alone. And I'm never going to have friends that are going to be able to support me or understand. And AMP was that for me. AMP was my family that I got to choose. AMP has given me friends for the rest of my life. Sorry, now I'm going to start crying. It's given me a support system that I, wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have stayed a part of AMP. Terri being one of those people. It's just given me an outlet to help express myself in other ways, help other youth, help advocate other youth. And for sure, the most important thing was the family that I needed and I got to pick.
Oh, wow. Thanks for making me cry, Amaris.
You guys are making me cry now.
It's like Amaris. AMP has been that family that I got to choose. All of my best friends I got through AMP. The people that I talk to every day, the people that I cry to, the people that when I've done something that I'm proud of myself, I can share it. And y'all are just as equally proud of me as I am of myself. AMP's going to push you to be the best you, to heal, to use your voice to help others, to use your voice to help yourself. And that comes first. Like, help yourself before you can help others. Ruth always teaches us when we're moving forward, just reach your hand back, grab somebody else, and pull them along. Wow, didn't want to cry on Facebook Live today. You just get to grow, and you get to watch your friends and your youth, like the other youth, grow. I've gotten to be an camp mentor, and I still have youth that'll text me like, "Hey, I just need someone to talk to." Like, you're honored, jeez, and you're like, "Wow, I remember when I was in that spot." Wow.
Well, and I can tell you, as an adult, as a foster parent, as a YSS staff and AMP staff, you get a front row seat to watch people grow. And I remember each one of you at your first AMP meeting. And the way I see you now, oh my gosh, you're amazing people. And that's the best part of it. So being a foster parent, that's what you get to look forward to. You get to see the young person come into your home, and then you get to watch them blossom into the best person they can be. So as we wrap up tonight, we're getting close to up tonight. No matter how or when a child enters your life, as a foster parent, you always have a front row seat to watch them grow and blossom and turn into the amazing person they're meant to be. So if you're interested in becoming a foster parent.org for more information, and they will direct you where you need to go. We'll be talking about Spanish speaking services. So hopefully you will tune in next week. Amaris for joining me tonight. And YSS is here to help parents and foster parents.